Hello and welcome to the Atheist Experience. And whenever I hear that song, I feel like pulling out my big samurai sword and slicing things up. Today is Sunday.
Get prominent play on Kill Bill.
Yes. Today is Sunday, August 28th, 2005, and I'm your host, Russell Glasser, and this man is my co-host, Jeff D.
Hi, everybody.
We are sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings every Sunday at Crescent City Beignets at 1211 West 6th Street, a couple of blocks west of Lamar. That starts at 11:30 and is open to any atheist or atheist-friendly people. You don't need to be a member to come. That is every Sunday except for the third Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series at the Austin History Center on 9th and Guadalupe. Those start at 12:30. The next lecture will be on September 18th, I believe, featuring Renee Hellman from American Atheists. Other regular events include Godless Gamers every Monday at 7 o'clock at my house. See the website www.atheist-community.org for information on how to contact me and get directions, or email tv@atheist-community.org. Also, Atheist Happy Hour on Thursdays at 7:30 at Antonio's Tex-Mex on the southbound feeder of I-35 just south of 183. You can check the website calendar for more information on regular and special events. We also have usually a regular internet audio show called The Nonprofits every Saturday on freethoughtradio.com. The show is hosted by Jeff D. right here. Co-hosted by Dennis Lubay, and also features Matt Dillahunty and me. The nonprofits are currently on hiatus. We will be back with an all-new live show on September 24th. The ACA has a board meeting on the second Sunday of every month before the regular meeting. Currently we are meeting at Schlotsky's Deli on 218 South Lamar, south of the bridge. All ACA members are welcome to come and sit in on board meetings, but only board members may vote. The next board meeting will be on September 11th. If you enjoy the program today and you think you'd like to come and meet us, we regularly meet for dinner after the show. Today we are meeting at Shanghai River on 2700 West Anderson Lane, but only this week. We are going to be moving to a new location next week, and that location will be Fresh Choice on 9761 Great Hills Trail, which I believe is near the Arboretum. Shanghai River is a Chinese buffet. As with our other events, atheists and atheist-friendly people are welcome to come join us there after the show today. Don't go to Fresh Choice today, that's next week. It's in the parking lot, the same parking lot as the Alamo Draft House. Just drive down Anderson Lane between Mopac and Burnett until you see the big marquee, and then go toward the back of the parking lot. We'll all be there after the show, arriving around 6:45. I'd like to say, since this is our last day at Shanghai, that Shanghai has been a really excellent location for us. They have very good service and a great and inexpensive buffet, and we have nothing but good things to say about them. And we're just going to stop eating Chinese food after 2 months. So that's it for regular announcements. I have one special announcement, which you can also find at the ACA website, www.atheist-community.org. George Carlin is coming to town. And as many of you may know, George Carlin is an outspoken atheist, and sometimes he does funny material about it, sometimes not, but he's always pretty funny. And as you'll see if you go to the website and look at the announcements on the right side, on September 24th, a group of people from the Atheist Community of Austin will be going to the 9:45 show, and they'll be meeting for dinner before the show at 7:30 across the street from the Paramount, which is where Carlin will perform. Dinner will be at the Hickory Street Grill. So I'll continue to announce that until September 24th. And I believe that's it. Jeff, what do you got for us?
Hi, Russell. I was wondering if you'd ever heard of a fellow named Pat Robertson.
It seems to ring a bell.
He's been in the news lately, and I don't actually plan on doing a big thing about the particular incident. Though I'll cover that at the start of this. He's already apologized. First tried to weasel out of it, but now apologized for what he said. So that part of it, I as far as I'm concerned, is over. But it did get me thinking about something. So here it is. Religious broadcaster Pat Robertson called on Monday for the assassination of Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez, calling him, quote, a terrific danger to the United States. Chavez has emerged as one of the most outspoken critics of President Bush, accusing the United States of conspiring to topple his government and possibly backing plots to assassinate him. U.S. officials have called the accusations ridiculous, which, hey, maybe they really are. I don't know about this doctrine of assassination, but if he thinks we're trying to assassinate him, I think that we really ought to go ahead and do it, Robertson said. Though he said it in his own voice, not me trying to do his voice. The Sixth Commandment, by the way, states, "Thou shalt not kill." Presumably, Pat Robertson is aware of this, particularly given all the time that he spends telling his flock about the Ten Commandments and emphasizing the point that they are absolutely rigid and inflexible. How then, I wondered, could he call for an action that appears to violate one of his own God's absolutely inflexible laws? Well, Robertson's supporters were quick to claim that the word kill in the Sixth Commandment is more properly translated murder. I actually looked this up on the internet. There does appear to be some support for that from biblical scholars. Fine.
Dan Parker actually goes after that in his book and says it's not a different word.
Okay, well, but fine. Thou shalt not murder. Therefore, supposedly letting Pat off the hook as far as the commandments are concerned, because assassination is not quite the same thing as murder. But didn't John Wilkes Booth assassinate Abraham Lincoln? Does that not violate the commandment, since an assassination is not quite a murder? Pat Robertson himself has jumped into the fray to clarify things with his teaching posted on his own website, and he calls it a teaching. And here's Pat Robertson's simulated voice again. You start off, "Thou shalt not murder." The word has to do with murder. We're not talking about a judicial execution by law, but you shall not murder. So, does an assassination have to be ordered by a government in order for it to be okay? And in that case, what about when Saddam Hussein, the ruler of Iraq at the time, ordered the assassination of the first President Bush? Was that okay? These 10 absolute laws start to look pretty darn flexible. It's no longer as simple and straightforward as "thou shalt not kill," period, nor even as simple as "thou shalt not murder," period. It's "thou shalt not kill unless the killing is legally ordered by a government that you like." But according to Robertson, flexible rules like that are bad. So bad that he labels them a threat to the very fabric of our society. From Pat Robertson's presidential campaign website, he says, "Instead of absolutes, our youth have been given situational ethics. Instead of a clear knowledge of right and wrong, they have been told, if it feels good, do it. Instead of self-restraint, they are taught self-gratification and hedonism." So what is this horrible thing that Pat Robertson calls situational ethics? This is from Wikipedia on the internet. Situational ethics refers to a particular view of ethics in which absolute standards are considered less important than the requirements of a particular situation. The standards used may therefore vary from one situation to another. The original situational ethics theory was developed by Joseph Fletcher, an Episcopal priest, in the 1960s. Based on the concept that the only thing with intrinsic value is love, or specifically, agape, or agape, how do they pronounce that? That's a religious love term. Fletcher advocated a number of controversial courses of action. The term situational ethics has since been broadened to include numerous situations in which a code of ethics is designed to suit the needs of the situation. Opponents of situational ethics are usually moral universalists who argue that ethics and morality are fundamental and cannot be based on practical, functional, or ethnocentric values. Therefore, ethics must be based on something more persistent than one group's assessment of their current situation. Under situational ethics, one needs to understand the situation before one can draw a moral judgment. Mr. A puts a knife into Mr. B's heart, causing the death of Mr. B. Is Mr. A guilty of an immoral act? Under situational ethics, that all depends. But in fact, it depends just as much under Pat Robertson's absolute 10 Commandments moral code. Mr. Robinson would need to know whether the two men were soldiers on opposing sides in a legal war, because killing somebody during a war, according to Pat Robertson, is not murder, or whether one was a legally appointed executioner or assassin, because according to Pat Robertson, if a government has legally ordained the death, then it's not murder. I'm sure he'd also excuse Mr. A if it turned out that Mr. A was a surgeon performing an emergency operation on Mr. B that just, by sheer happenstance, didn't work out. There is no functional difference between how Mr. Robertson would reach a moral conclusion about that incident and the way a situational ethicist would. In both cases, in order to draw a valid moral conclusion, you have to know and care what's going on. Situational ethics is not about self-gratification. It's about making informed moral choices. The only difference between situational ethics and the 10 Commandments as viewed by Pat Robertson is that Mr. Robertson, in pretending that the moral choices involved are simpler than they actually are, discourages members of his own flock from becoming informed before they reach their moral decisions. Thanks, folks. Russell?
Thanks, Jeff.
Do you have any comments on that? Oh, I want to make one more point, actually. This whole thing about the opponents to situational ethics argue that morality can't be based on practical or functional values, right? It can't matter whether it's just convenient. But in Pat Robertson's statement calling for this assassination, he went on to say, "It's a whole lot cheaper than starting a war, and I don't think any oil shipments would stop." He's even taking into account that it would be more convenient to do it that way, and using that as justification.
I'm sure God cares a lot about that.
Well, yeah, we don't believe in God.
Of course.
It doesn't particularly bother me discussing options that might seem harsh, but that's because I'm upfront about thinking situational ethics is a good way to make decisions. Pat Robertson attacks situational ethics while clearly using them, and that is what I find
right, definitely.
ironic.
And there's no way of avoiding it. I mean, the way that since I encountered the word kill is not the same as the word murder.
Right. Merely making that distinction is an appeal to situational ethics.
Yeah,
the difference between those two words is a difference of situation.
Yeah, it appears that the only distinction being made there, it appears that the law is completely irrelevant, because the only thing that it says now is it's not okay to kill people, except when it is okay.
Well, sure, because who's in charge of what the definitions of words are? Well, we are, right? If our culture says that, oh no, this particular thing involving the killing of another person, we use a different word for that than murder, then that becomes okay. It doesn't even matter if it's just, a different flavor of murder. it's not entirely avoidable. You could have have a moral system where you didn't have to invoke situational ethics. It's just that they don't have it once they appeal to the difference between murder and kill.
I suppose
if they stuck with kill, if they said, thou shalt not kill, period, kill is pretty clear, right? Did you kill that man? Yes. Then you committed a sin. Doesn't matter why, doesn't matter what the situation was. You could have that. But the reason, I think, that Christians don't want that is because they recognize that there are situations where that is too harsh, where it's not flexible enough, and there are, real painful necessities for killing sometimes.
Yeah, and if you're allowed to weasel around with definitions like that, I can see a way out of it, actually. It could be like, you just killed that guy. No, I didn't kill him. In fact, I snurgled him. Because the particular situation in which I was, quote, killing him, actually is a very narrow definition that defines the snurgle action.
As something other than killing?
Yes.
I suppose so.
I don't know. Would it be appropriate to throw in a plug to euthyphroproject.com?
Sure.
Okay. Check out euthyphroproject.com.
That is our website that Russell and I have put together to challenge this idea that that morality comes from rules that are made up and handed down by a god.
Yes.
And the name for the site is a reference to a story by Plato about Socrates having a discussion with a young man about where virtue comes from. And it turns out, if you actually think about it, that there's no way that something that really is moral could have its basis in just because a god said so.
Right.
But the website explains more. I don't think we want to get sidetracked on that now, do we? You got news stories.
Yes, I do have a few news stories. Starting with the University of California, which is now being sued by creationists.
Sued? Why?
A group representing California religious schools has filed a lawsuit accusing the University of California system of discriminating against high schools that teach creationism and other conservative Christian viewpoints. The Association of Christian Schools International, which represents more than 800 schools, filed a federal lawsuit Thursday claiming UC admission officials have refused to certify high school science courses that use textbooks challenging Darwin's theory of evolution. Other rejected courses include, quote, Christianity's influence in American history, which is just what Matt was talking about a couple of weeks ago. Under this new class in Lubbock, Texas, students from Lubbock would not get any credit for taking this ridiculously biased and misinformed Bible class that's going on there. According to the lawsuit, the Calvary Chapel Christian School in Murrieta was told its books were rejected because they used textbooks printed by two Christian publishers, Bob Jones University Press and A. Becca Books. Wendell E. Bird, a lawyer for the association, said the policy violates the rights of students and religious schools. A threat to one religion is a threat to all, he said. UC spokeswoman Ravi Pursina said she could not comment because the university had not been served with the lawsuit. Still, she said the university has a right to set course requirements. These requirements were established after careful study, bureaucrat speak, and so on.
Right. Well, it's what people have been saying all along. If you depart from valid science in your teaching of science in science classes to your students, those students will not be considered eligible to enter into higher level science classes in college on the same subject. I mean, that's just obvious. Right. Everybody's known that all along.
This is not about being a threat to religion. This is about not allowing classes that teach stupidity in the place of science. Yeah. And I'd like to say that if you allowed people to be taught bad science in high school and then just wave them on through to get to college, then what happens next? Do you require colleges do you require students who have been taught creationism in college to be waved on through to medical school? Do you require people whose basically jobs depend on doing accurate science, like doctors and actual biologists, to be waved on through after really having been taught wrong information throughout their entire school years?
Well, of course, the Christians who object to this step taken by the University of California are going to argue that, oh no, this is real valid science. But
but they have to prove that first.
The authority to decide that falls squarely in the camp of actual practicing scientists in the scientific community, who are, you can jump up and down and scream and yell about them being prejudiced, but you can't prove it without proving that their science is wrong. And they're the guys that understand science, and you're not.
Right. An analogy was pointed out to me this morning, actually. Somebody said that Einstein actually was very much against quantum mechanics, which I think, we've heard this story before, that he didn't like the implications of quantum mechanics, and he hoped that it would turn out to be wrong. But what did he do after that? Did he try to create an institute with a bunch of political spokesmen and try to stop everybody from talking about quantum mechanics? Did he launch political campaigns and try to raise money to get quantum mechanics prevented? No, what he did is he spent the rest of his remaining years trying to disprove quantum mechanics, and he failed.
Right.
But
he didn't call for it not to be taught in schools. And more importantly, the proponents of quantum physics didn't do that either. They didn't go out and hire a bunch of, ad people and PR people and try to elect people to government that would support quantum physics. They let it be accepted or rejected on the evidence.
Exactly.
Which is how it's supposed to work. I need to cut in for a second and mention that the URL for the Euthyphro project, which went on the screen a second ago, was incorrect. It's EUTHYPHRO, fellas. There we go. Yeah.
Looks good.
I think it was incorrect before. Thank you. What else you got?
Okay. What else have I got?
Yeah.
This is a live call-in show. The number is going to be at the bottom of your screen as soon as the Euthyphro project goes away. And if all you see is a blank screen in a minute, then this might be a rerun, and maybe the number is not coming up. But it's actually not up now. So there it is.
Now
okay.
It's up.
Look down there. If it's not there, this is a rerun.
Meanwhile, funny, I don't feel like a rerun.
You will when you become your future self.
Really?
Yes. Fred Phelps. We always love stories about him because he is just a gold mine.
Do we have to give him any more press? Really?
He's so funny.
Fine, go ahead.
Okay. Members of a church say God is punishing American soldiers for defending a country that harbors gays, and they brought their anti-gay message to the funerals Saturday of 2 Tennessee soldiers killed in Iraq. The church members were met with scorn from local residents. They chased the church members' cars down a highway, waving flags and screaming, "God bless America." So one faction of lunatics going after another.
There's a lot of this. There's a lot of this. People that support our nation's involvement in the current war, on the basis of religion, or in part on the basis of religion, and people who object to it on the basis of religion. And there was that other incident at the protest up in Crawford, Texas, where a local guy took his truck and ran over a display of crosses bearing the names of slain soldiers because he objected to Christianity being invoked against the war. And He has also since apologized, by the way, to be fair to the guy. But
Right.
that's, that really saddens me.
Well, I mean,
Sort of.
it kind of brings us back to whether having a God really brings up the absolute morality thing, because even if we accept the fact that even if we were to accept the fact, and we don't, that there is a God and God decides what's moral, people don't seem to have a clue what He actually thinks. I mean, here
Right,
we have...
It comes down to interpretations, and when there's differences on interpretations, they don't say, well, your interpretation is the one that makes sense to you, so, let's live and let live. They say, oh no, your interpretation is wrong, therefore I'm going to do some act of violence to stop you saying that.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that here we have one very loud and strident group of people who say that God is absolutely against this war, and that they should honor their soldiers with crosses because it's a tribute to them and to God, who doesn't like war.
Oh, and by the way, it's not just crosses up there at the protest in Crawford, Texas. For Muslim soldiers, they have crescents. For Jewish soldiers, they have Stars of David, and I know that there have been atheist soldiers who have died in that war, but I haven't seen any sign of American atheist symbols or any kind of symbol to commemorate those guys.
Right.
I may have just missed them. I mean, if they're a small percentage of the population.
Yeah. But there are a lot of Christians involved, and the Christians seem very convinced that this war is not what God wants. And meanwhile, there seem to be an equally loud and strident faction of Christians who think that the war is what God wants. And if I just had to base it on which one was more persuasive, I can't really tell. They both seem pretty serious and convinced of their position, and they seem to have an equal amount of faith. So if it's all about what God tells us to do, who knows? Unless God talks to you like Bush or Robertson.
Yeah, scary.
So we've got some callers now, and we're going to start with Sherry. Hello, Sherry.
Hi, how are you guys?
I'm fine.
We're good.
How are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to call in and let you know how much I enjoy your show. I found it a few weeks ago. I was just flipping channels and came across it, and now I watch it every Sunday that I'm home. So I really appreciate you guys bringing some of these issues out. And I thought it was good, Russell, that you did the show last week when you talked about kind of explaining atheism and what your show is about, because I think a lot of people don't understand, and you've talked about this a lot, the difference between having morals and being Christian, and the fact that you don't have to be Christian in order to be moral.
That's right. And we really appreciate having you as a viewer, and I also want to remind you that Shanghai River, after the show, 6:45, the address will pop up on the screen. And I'm glad that you liked our show about the show last week. We weren't sure about that one going in.
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea. And I've been in Austin for about 5 years, and I think that I have found a lot more agnostic and atheist people in Austin from where I came from, which was North Carolina.
Oh.
And it was very deep Bible Belt in North Carolina. But I think that in Austin, at least, there is some sort of, group of people that are willing to accept that there are other viewpoints.
Yeah, well, I think most of Texas is probably a lot like North Carolina.
Yes, I agree.
But I'm glad to be in Austin and not in most of Texas.
Yes, I agree. But I also think that socially, it's almost as if I think that there are probably a lot more people that are agnostic and atheist that are not willing to admit that they are, if that makes any sense at all. Because I think socially they feel as if they can't.
Well, I think that's got to be absolutely true, given that polls show somewhere between 7 and 15% atheists in this country, and Austin being a liberal haven, you'd think that then the atheist community of Austin would have 7 to 15% of Austinites showing up, and we don't.
Right.
So there are a lot of people that that don't believe in religious claims around town that either just don't know about us or don't think that they need to hang out with others that feel the same way, and then that's fine. I mean, I'm not trying to put down atheists that
aren't joiners.
That aren't joiners.
Right.
Most of us aren't joiners. That's part of the problem. But I think you're absolutely right. There are a lot of people out there that have this viewpoint, and we don't get very much exposure.
That is true. Well, thanks, guys. I just wanted to give you a call and let you know how much I enjoy the show.
Well, we really appreciate your feedback. Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We'll go on next to some more callers. We're going to Jordan. Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, I wanted to know, what does atheist mean, actually?
An atheist is a person who does not believe in a God.
Oh. Well, I do believe in a God. I'm Christian.
Okay.
Okay, then you're not an atheist.
Yeah. And I would actually wonder, why do you talk about it on a show, on this show?
Because we are some people. Because basically we live in a society where young people are told basically by their priests and their pastors, not only that there is a God, which frankly, we don't care if you believe in a God. You can believe what you want. But people are also told that if you don't believe in a God, you are depraved, you have no morals, you are a bad person, and you want to do all kinds of harm and damage to good Christians.
I have many friends that are atheists, and that I don't have a problem. I'm Christian, and I don't care if they do or don't believe in a God.
Well, good.
That's great. Then, we wish more people were like you.
Yes.
Yeah. I was talking on the other line. Do y'all help with problems as well?
What?
You mean just general problems? We're pretty focused on the whole religion thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, generally. I mean, we.
You can ask us anything. What do you want to know?
Go ahead.
What about people that believe in more than one religion, like Christian and Buddhist or Hebrew and other kinds?
Well, we're atheists. We don't believe in any of them. We think they're all equally without merit. Although, some of them make wackier supernatural claims than others do, and we have less of a problem with the ones that don't so much.
Okay.
But, again, you're free to believe what you want, but the driving principle behind atheism is that you ought to believe stuff after you have evidence, good reason to believe that it's true.
Okay.
And
that's really what I would like to know, and thanks for letting me be on your show.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thank you for calling.
Bye.
Bye. Next, we're going to go to Robbie. Hello, Robbie.
Hello.
Hi, Robbie.
Hi. I called your show many times, but, George Bush talks about the war being a noble thing. Well, I've never seen a war. I've been in 3 of them. I've never seen a war that was noble. And I have never heard him say that since it's so noble, I'll send my daughters over there. And neither has a bunch of the politicians. So I don't know where they come off with this noble stuff.
Well, if we're going to get back to the situational thing for a second, I'm sure you can think of good reasons why you might fight a war. I'm not saying this war is the one, but I mean World War II, for instance.
Yeah, but we're not talking noble. It wasn't noble. It was a have-to thing.
That's true, but you could. But
if I could step in, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong when you're faced with something you have to do, and it's scary, but you do it anyway, right? To put a good face on that and call it nobility or bravery or something. I don't think that's necessarily wrong. But and we've got to be careful on this show, because we're not the atheist community of Austin is not a partisan political organization.
I understand.
Right. So we're not going to tell you what much about our own political views, but you know, I think the issue is if you're going to view ethics and morality from a situational perspective, then what really matters are the details of what's actually going on. And sometimes the details of what is actually going on are going to be such that you really don't have a choice, you have to go to war. And sometimes the real details turn out there wasn't really any reason you had to go to war in that case, and if you did anyway, particularly if you knew that there was no real good reason why you had to do that, and you just were doing it for personal gain, not talking about any particular war now, then you know, then you'd be violating basic principles of morality.
Actually, I kind of have been thinking about it, and I disagree that we didn't have any choice in going to war in World War II. For instance, we could have been bombed, and we could have said, please, Mr. Japan and Germany, we can see that you're very strong, and we promise never to attack you, and we'll help defend you if you get attacked. That would have been wrong, I think.
Yes, I understand that one.
But
from then on,
it might not have been much of a choice, but there's always some kind of choice.
But the second thing I was going to say, did you see Saturday's paper with the article about the religious right getting people in the White House, and they're trying to get all their religious thing. There was a big article to get only people that are religious in politics and run everybody else out so they could bring God into this nation.
And not just people who are religious, people who follow a particular brand of Christianity.
Right.
Yes, I did. I saw that article on the web version.
Oh, yeah. It's scary. It is really
That's
scary.
been going on for quite some time. You know, we're just, you know, this is part of a big plan that has been in the works for a long time, and we're just noticing now, which is scary.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Okay. Thanks. Live call-in show. Could you put the number back up again? If this is August 28th, then you are watching it live, and you will feel free to call in.
Else we're just recordings.
Right.
And we're not real people.
And that brings us into very weird existential questions, of course. But also, if you're watching it today, after the show, you might want to... If this
is a recording, then right now there's another me walking around somewhere doing something else.
Wow.
I wonder what that real me is up to when
and
this
I wonder
recording
what
plays.
would happen to the universe if that real you attempted to contact you.
Well, he can watch me on TV.
Okay. It only goes one way, I'm afraid.
Wow.
Also, if you're watching live today and you happen to be atheist or atheist friendly, come to Shanghai River for the last time, at least for a while. And that's at 2700 West Anderson Lane, just as it says right there. Next week we will not be at Shanghai River. Once again, next week we will start going to Fresh Choice, so watch for that announcement. We're going to continue the calls with Julia.
Hello.
Hi, Julia.
I just wanted to know why the Satan worshippers, like you guys, get...
Well, hold on.
Whoa.
Sorry, you can't complete that. We're not Satan worshippers.
We don't believe in him either.
Right. Go on.
Hi.
All right, but you guys going to Shanghai River, right?
Yes.
Well, I don't know if I want to support that business because you guys believe in the devil.
We don't believe in the devil. We think he is just as made up as God.
What makes you think that we believe in the devil?
Well, you ain't Christian. Does that mean that you believe in the devil?
Well, that's not true.
Do you believe
Whoever told you that lied to you, ma'am.
My priest told me.
I'm sorry, your priest lied to you. Your priest is wrong.
He preaches the word of God.
Your preacher lied when he told you that we believe in Satan. Because we don't.
I mean,
we don't.
He said anybody
that
don't believe in God is Satan.
Well, then he's a liar. Because we don't.
He says he
or maybe I'll soften it. Maybe he's just very mistaken, but he's wrong because we don't believe in Satan. He's just
You
wrong.
believe in aliens?
Do
Not
I believe
particularly.
in aliens? I know of no evidence that there's aliens.
I think they're devils if they are, because it don't say nothing about aliens in the Bible.
Okie dokie.
Okay, but we don't believe in aliens.
Do you believe in... what do you believe in?
All kinds of stuff.
I believe in people. I believe Jeff's sitting right here. I believe that this backdrop is real. Feels real.
Yeah, we believe in, like, obviously real stuff.
Yeah.
Do you worship each other?
No.
No.
Russell's not that great.
Well, yes, I am. But
I didn't mean to have to say that publicly. But
he
Russell's
should
not
worship
that-
me. I'm trying to get
He's
him
not
into
that great.
But
Doesn't deserve it.
He's rebuffed my advances so far.
So, do you think you guys going to heaven? Because you ain't.
No, we don't believe in it. We think when we're dead, our bodies will stop working, our brains will stop working, we will stop being minds because there's nothing going on in our bodies, and we'll just
Decompose.
Decompose. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
But you
Not
guys
very
going
pretty,
to
but that's
hell.
what we think is going to happen.
But you guys going to hell, right? Because
We don't
We
believe,
don't believe in that either.
I know
Who tells you all this stuff?
the Christian
They need to
guy
actually,
says
you know, if you want to know what atheists believe in, you're doing the right thing. Just ask us.
devil.
No, we don't believe in that. We don't think there's any such thing. We think there's the physical universe, right? Which contains a bunch of stuff we don't know about, but we're pretty sure none of it is your God or your
What about
devil
your
or
God?
heaven or hell.
What about your God?
We
We
don't,
don't have one.
That's the problem, you guys sinners.
Okay, but you are free to believe in the devil and free to believe that we'll get all kinds of torment and punishment after we die. But you're not free to come on here and tell us that we believe that stuff, because we don't. And
I
we
think
know
we're
what we
free,
believe
but I
better
think
than you do.
You guys believe and worship that your God is the devil.
Okay, well, now you're just getting insulting, and
I ain't trying to
we're
insult.
well.
I
Then
mean,
stop telling us
Why
what
did
we
you just
believe,
call that one
ma'am.
guy?
We
All
will
right.
tell you what we believe. We're happy to share that with you. Stop putting words into our mouth. You have no business telling us what we believe. I don't care if it's your preacher that told you that.
But
He
he
has no
does.
business lying about what we believe. That's just a fact. I mean, don't come on our show and try to put words in our mouth. We will be honest with you and tell you what we think.
You're going to make me cry, man.
All right.
Okay.
Now you're being rude.
Don't
Goodbye.
cry. You don't need to cry about it. You're wrong.
She was
though.
making fun.
Yes.
No, we're not like emotionally hurt that you did it. We're insulted because it's rude when you do that.
Right.
That's what it's all about. All right.
Okay. That was fun.
Plus, there's the whole we're going to hell thing, which, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if you believe that anybody else on the planet deserves to be tortured forever, that makes you a bad person. As far as I'm concerned.
Me too.
Okay.
We're going next to Dan. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Dan.
You guys, have you guys checked out the Hindu religion in your studies of all of the myths, and as you guys call them?
The one with the god with the beak and all the arms and reincarnation and
Krishna.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Don't believe in that either.
Arjuna. And have you guys ever checked out a book called the Bhagavad Gita?
I read it in elementary school, actually.
So would you agree that this particular text is at least a little bit more entertaining, even though it still is a myth, than some of the others?
Maybe, but not as many people are familiar with it.
Yes, that's true, and it's a little hard to read it directly translated. It needs to be powder puffed a little bit, more like the one with Jesus and the lambs.
Well, yeah, so does the Bible.
So does the Bible. Okay, and the second question for the day, or a comment, is you guys are pretty positive in your beliefs and so forth, but do you ever just once in a while wake up maybe with a little cold sweat and say, well, man, what if I'm wrong, even though I'm so smart? What if I am wrong and I burn in hell for eternity?
Not with a cold sweat, no. I mean, what I do very often in debates with Christians, say on the internet, in news groups and things.
Well, you're not debating a Christian.
No, I know. I'm just telling you. I often, happily, for the sake of argument, will accept, for the sake of argument, that a God exists. I mean, I don't have a problem thinking about that and looking at the implications, but not to the point where I'm actually worried about about what will happen. As far as I'm concerned, if it turns out there is a God and his opinion of human beings is that if we don't kowtow to him, then we deserve to be tortured forever, then the torture will be the torture will be extremely painful, and I wouldn't be looking forward to that. But mostly, I think I'd spend that time thinking how hugely unfair and unjust that God was, if that turned out to be the case. I mean, I would be less, the possibility that I could spend an eternity being tortured for that worries me less because of the pain than it does because of what it means about the universe.
Right, well, because I think someone who decided to go ahead and start believing in God, even though he really doesn't, because he's afraid of getting tortured, would lack a certain integrity that you would hope that the supreme overlord of the universe, if he existed, would care about. I hope that was clear.
Well, it was very clear, and I'd like to add that I'm glad that you guys admit that possibility could exist.
Well, we admit all possibilities that are logically possible.
I admitted to somebody I was debating with the other day that evolution might be caused by invisible goblins that magically transform living things a little bit at a time over many, many generations.
No, that sounds like Scientologist or something.
But the point is that that's just keeping an open mind. Admitting the possibility of something is keeping an open mind. Actually believing in it is something else.
Right, and I'm not saying you should. There's no evidence that we can prove that says you should. So, I think that it's good to keep a little bit of an open mind just in case, then maybe it'll give you that little leeway.
Definitely, and I think it's part of, like I said, intellectual integrity, and it's also part of the scientific method, which is that nothing is considered ever absolutely known. It could always be that some new evidence shows up that completely screws up everything you thought you knew. Of course, the more solidly something is established, the less likely it is that could happen, but it always could.
Very good, then.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Thanks for the call.
Thanks for calling. Now we're going to go on to Ray. Ray, are you there?
Hello?
Hello, Ray.
Oh, actually, my name's Matt.
Okay.
Huh, okay.
Anyway, I just wanted to commend you guys on your show, and I really appreciate you being on the air and everything.
Thanks.
Had a quick question. What do you think it will take for the entire human race to wake up?
About what? About religion?
The fact that science is the truth. And
do you need 100%? Because my answer is never. I mean, you could ask about varying degrees. You could ask what it would take for 90% of the human race to wake up.
Yeah, we still got people who believe that the Earth is flat.
Right.
They have a website. So yeah, pretty much never.
What do you think about if there's ever a proof of existence of maybe some kind of foreign life somewhere other than our world? Do you think that might do something?
I think that if you look back in history and see how willing religions have been to adapt to accommodate new discoveries, I think that says a lot more about the adaptive power of religion than it does about anything else. I mean, it won't be long. We got UFO religions now. It won't be long before the mainstream religions figure out some way of shoehorning, an encounter with an alien intelligent race, if that were to ever happen, right? It would just be a matter of time before they figure out how to shoehorn that into their religion so that they wouldn't go out of business.
Yeah, I mean, look at Galileo, for instance. I mean, in his time, he got thrown in prison for having evidence that the Earth went around the sun instead of the other way around, and everybody thought that was heresy, both Catholics and Protestants at the time. Today, you don't meet very many Christians at all who still think that the sun goes around the Earth. And they also claim that the true Christian religion was never in conflict. It was just a bunch of stupid church people who believed that. What usually happens is that all the people who used to believe that stuff die, and then young people grow up who've been hearing the facts all their life, and they just incorporate it as part of the religion they want to believe anyway.
I see. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, thanks a lot, guys, and keep up the good work, all right?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you for calling. Next, we're going to John. Hello.
Hey, what's up, guys? I want to commend y'all as well. Y'all do a heck of a job, and it's kind of tough in America dealing with all the Christians, some of them at least. But I want to also thank y'all for Losing Faith in Faith by Dan Barker. You guys recommended that, and I picked it up, and it's a great read.
Excellent.
So, and also he's got some other books in there. Once you read that, you can get to like 3 or 4 others, and then like any book, you read one, and there's usually 4 or 5 sources in there.
Yeah, Dan Barker also wrote a couple of children's books, 3 of them actually, which I got for my kids.
Cool.
And those are very good too. So, have you finished the book?
Yeah, I just finished it, and I thought it was excellent.
What was your favorite part?
Well, I like how he goes through kind of how he had to deal with it, and then he's got one chapter. A lot of it was the pamphlets that are, I guess, the where he wrote for the freedom thought, and and so a lot of that stuff was just kind of re-put in the book. But it was really good, and it went through his kind of his struggle with it, and then because to go from a preacher to an atheist, that's a pretty long journey.
Yeah, not just a preacher, but a fundamentalist preacher.
Right, exactly. And he was cradle too. So there was just a lot of stuff. I enjoyed the whole book, and it's good. If you're a Christian, you should read it. It'll challenge a lot of your beliefs. But if you're an atheist or a free thinker, it also gives you a pretty good arsenal.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys.
Thank you for calling. Jeff, you want to mention that thing with your family? Didn't you?
I sent my mom a copy of that. But, well, okay. My parents are both Methodist ministers. And they didn't become ministers until I was grown up and out of the house. So I'm not an atheist in some kind of reactionary way to get back at my parents for a bad upbringing. I had a great childhood, and everything was cool. I went off to college, and a few years on my own, I decided that I didn't believe in God, and they retired from their legitimate careers and became preachers. Which, and then the fun begins. So Mom got into this habit of sending me pointedly religious, gifts. And I asked her to please stop because, that's just, why do we have to fight about this? Why can't you guys just believe what you want and I'll believe what I want? And finally we settled on, okay, she can send me religious gifts, Christian gifts, if I can send her atheist gifts. So I sent her Dan Barker's book. And, well, she got a few chapters into it. I don't know exactly how far, but not that far, decided that she didn't agree with him and put it away. And I said, okay, fine, that's enough for our agreement. Don't send me any more religious gifts, and that was the end of it. So,
okay. I actually didn't remember what the end of that story was, so thanks. We'll go next to Cindy. Cindy?
Yes. My question is, what is the difference between an atheist and an agnostic belief?
Can I take this one?
Go ahead.
Okay. First, you got to be prepared that you ask 100 different people that question, and you're going to get, at least 50 different answers. Okay. Dictionaries don't agree. Religious people don't agree. And even atheists don't agree. Okay? So when I'm asked, I say, I'll tell you what I think is the most useful distinction you can draw, okay? But you're not going to find this, this exact definition almost anywhere, like in dictionaries.
Okay.
Okay. I think the most important distinction is atheism. Okay. The prefix a means not. Okay. Theism means belief in God. So atheism is not belief in God, and an atheist is a person that doesn't believe in God. It's about belief. Okay? That's atheist. Agnostic. Gnostic is, the root of that word is knowledge. A religious person who is a Gnostic is, that's from a movement where they claim to have knowledge. Okay? And agnostic is someone who does not claim to have knowledge. So, most atheists are both agnostics and atheists. They neither believe in God nor claim to know with absolute certainty one way or the other.
Okay.
Okay? You'll even meet agnostic theists. I've met and talked with folks like that who believe in God even though they admit they can't actually know. Mm-hmm. Right? So, is that helpful?
Yeah, I think so. I just always thought of the atheist person as someone who not only not believed in God, but was kind of against that. And you guys don't seem to be against it, but yet you're calling yourself atheist. And I thought an agnostic was sort of a person lacking any religion. And so like I said, when I've looked in the dictionary, it's not very helpful, you know. So,
like you said.
And you guys seem to put the two words together quite a bit. I haven't been watching you very long, but you did that. So I'm confused. So that's neat to hear your opinion.
I hope that helps.
It helps some. But like you said, I guess, everybody's going to have a different idea on that. So
and it really does depend on the person, because I do know dogmatic atheist Gnostics, you might say, who are not only don't believe in a God, but they are dead certain that no God can exist.
Right.
And I'll make it even more complicated for you. Okay, if I met some people on a South Seas island that had a totem pole, and they told me that totem pole was their God. I'm a theist now, right? Because I can go up and rap on that totem pole with my knuckles. I've got no argument about the existence of their God. Now, when we get into details like can he, make the weather change and stuff when they pray to him, I might disagree with him on points of detail like that. But on the question of the existence of his God, no argument. So really, whether I am a theist, an atheist, a Gnostic, or an agnostic depends on the particular God.
Okay.
Really. I call myself an atheist generally because most things that people really seriously mean when they say God, most of those things I don't believe in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that makes sense.
Okay.
It's just kind of a fuzzy line drawn in between all that.
Language is a stupid way to communicate, but it's all we got.
It is. Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right, thanks for calling. The next person on the line is Steve.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to talk about when you're talking about absolutes in morals or absolute morality and how it relates to responsibility, because I think a lot of times, like when the Pat Robertson kind of thing you were talking about, when they say you can do whatever feels good, it's as if not believing in absolute morality is somehow irresponsible.
Yeah.
But on the contrary, I actually think that when you kind of cede the moral decision-making to some absolute rule or to somebody else, you are abdicating your own responsibility to know whether or not you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
And an example would be if Pat Robertson said that this isn't killing, assassination is okay, and you said, I accept that, and I'm going to go do it. And when you got to the pearly gates, which of course I don't believe in either, but you found out that no, that was murder, you wouldn't have an excuse that said, well, Pat Robertson my only sin was believing Pat Robertson. No, I'm sorry. You are just as guilty as someone who just willfully committed murder because you didn't check your facts and figure out, is this really right?
You didn't care about the situation, right?
And so, the morality, the only morality has to be, everybody has to really go through all the moral dilemmas all the time. And when they, accept something, they're accepting it tacitly but they're going to reevaluate, and you can't say that situation is just like this one, so I'm not going to think about it. Eventually, you're going to get caught up where, oops, I made a mistake. That is not right, and I did something wrong. And so I just think when they talk about responsibility, I think that the absolutes is a way to pretend like you don't have any responsibility. You don't have to worry about it. Someone's taking care of that, and you can just follow their rules. And I think that's a very weak and kind of, in a sense, immoral way to deal with these kind of things. So.
A friend of mine was debating on the Alt-Atheism news group on the internet, and got into a discussion with some Christians, and he was, bringing up that exact point. It's amoral, right? Amoral, not moral, not anti-moral, right? It's not necessarily evil to set aside your moral judgment and follow somebody else's rules, but it's certainly amoral because you're not making any moral decisions. You're just following the program that was handed down to you from above.
I think accepting a religion package sort of simplifies things because it's not that you're not making any moral decision because you're making the decision to follow that particular religion. But it's sort of a set it and forget it thing.
Right.
But once you've decided to trust what one guy says, then you never really have to make any other moral decisions.
I think you should go back and reevaluate that decision every time something else comes up, because it is just as weighty to have made that glib decision at some point and then put it on the shelf. I mean, it's not like you're done. You have to go back and go, well, should I still be following what these absolutes are saying, given what I'm seeing in front of me right now?
Yeah, I agree with Russell that when you sign up to a religion, you have an opportunity to make a moral decision. But I see no evidence that people do, right? I don't think people are thinking morally when they sign up for a religion, because I've never met the person that said, wow, okay, there's this church that wants me as a member, and they believe there's this God, and he's going to torture everybody on the planet when they die because of something their ancient ancestors did, right? And if I join this religion, I get to not be tortured. Okay, cool. That's moral. Sign me up for that. Right. I just think people aren't thinking about that when they join a religion. I think they're attracted by a lot of the other, peripheral stuff.
I think there's people that actually consider it a benefit that they don't have to worry about it, and that's one of the benefits that they would ascribe to. If they were honest, they would say, this way I don't have to be worrying about what's right and wrong. Someone's going to tell me, and I basically hired somebody to do it for me, and it's easy. And if you want the easy way, okay, I don't consider that particularly moral to take the easy way and hire out your decision making myself.
And I'll make one more accusation, which is I think that is not only appealing to people not to have to think, about difficult moral dilemmas. It's also very, very handy for people in positions of authority if their followers don't think very deeply about moral issues. Because then they can get away with stuff like what Pat Robertson said.
Yeah, and it brings up the "I was just following orders" excuse when people do horrible things. So anyway, thanks for letting me throw my 2 cents in.
Thanks for your call.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. We've got Matt, one of our other regular co-hosts. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Hey, guys.
Heard you called in sick today.
Yeah, I had to. Somebody broke in my car last night. So
yeah.
I called in because of I've forgotten her name. It may have been Julia who called in earlier to talk about the fact that you guys believe in the devil.
Yes.
I don't know where that was.
Which, just to clarify, we still don't.
And it must be true because her preacher told her so. The thing is, in the New Testament, there's actually a contradiction, which may or may not be a contradiction depending on how you want to interpret it, which is pretty much true of all the biblical contradictions once you start talking to a Christian. In Mark chapter 9, verse 40, it essentially boils down to Jesus saying, whoever is not against us is for us. And in Matthew chapter 12, verse 30, whoever is not with us is against us. And a lot of fundamentalist preachers rely on the Matthew interpretation and say these people who are atheists or whatever, or any other religion, anything except Christianity, since they are not with us, they are against us. And ergo, they are of the devil, since he is our adversary. And whether they believe in the devil or not doesn't matter. From a Christian perspective, they're still the devil's tools. And they feed on that and spread it out, which is one of the reasons why atheism has such a negative stigma to it, which is why we do the show and say, hey, just because somebody told you something doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
Just because somebody chose to use one verse to preach ill about somebody doesn't mean that is even what was intended, and that doesn't speak to whether or not any of that's even real or true.
Right. To the kid who called earlier and asked why we're on TV, that you hit it right on the head.
Anyway, I just wanted to call and point out that contradiction real quick, and I'll see you all later.
All right.
We'll see you, man.
Later.
Moving right along, we have Jay.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Thanks for doing your show, and I want to follow up on, I guess, what a lot of your callers have said, which is there is a negative stigmatism attached to the phrase atheism.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I love seeing your show is anyone who clicks by it, will quickly have a lot of their myths removed. I was calling to follow up. You mentioned statistically not many people come out and join and get involved with your group if compared to the statistics that show how many there should be in Austin. Other than your show, what kind of activities do you have, and what do you do to try to...
You can find out all about it on our website, www.atheist-community.org.
The short version is that I guess you're asking about actual promotion, not what kind of events do we have that are fun.
Yeah, and what kind of thing do you discuss? I mean, is it one of the things that when you guys get together that you work on? What are the strategies? How can we make bigger inroads?
There's been a lot of talk.
Or to follow up with what another caller said, and you kind of answered. Do you think it's impossible? Do you think we're always going to be such a small number?
Well, no. I said it's impossible that 100% of the human race will ever become rational. But that doesn't mean that I don't think
rational about religion specifically.
Religion, yes. But that doesn't mean I don't think there will ever be a lot of them. I mean, already in Europe, most people don't believe in God, right?
Yeah.
We do. We plug all our meetings on this show, which is actually how we find the main way that people find us. We have our website, which is how I found us 6 years ago. We're doing some newspaper ads, but I think we've actually recently been discussing in board meetings what a more effective advertising strategy is going to be. In the past, we've had membership drives where we really hike up the advertising for a few weeks and make sure that people put out a lot of information. We go to other people's rallies. We are a regular presence at gay pride rallies, not because we're all gay, but because we support gays not being oppressed by religious people, and other events like that.
Okay. Well, I do really appreciate your efforts, and wish you all the success that one can hope for.
Thank you. And hey, if you have ideas to share with our group about how to have a higher profile in the community, we'd love to hear them.
Come on down.
Okay.
And that includes that includes Shanghai River, 2700 West Anderson Lane, near the Alamo Draft House.
You can remind everybody what that actually is. It's after the show,
at
right?
6:45. After the show today, if this is not a rerun and these are not our past selves talking to you, and if they are our past selves, don't go to Shanghai because we're going to start going to Fresh Choice near the Arboretum starting next week. Next, we have Chloe.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
Good to see you all.
Good to hear you.
Always enjoy the conversation. Usually when I view your show, especially on Sundays, I generally reflect on one of the greatest atheists, Ms. O'Hare. And in those conversations, I remember her saying to me, long after I'm gone, Chloe, you're going to know what I was saying was not nonsense. You're going to know of the dangers of Pat Robertson. And, you know, it really has come to be a lot of the stuff that she said is so many of these hypocrites.
I guess she meant that it wasn't obvious how dangerous Pat Robertson was in those days?
Right, even a long time ago.
What was he like then?
Well, he was basically taking your money and making you into more of a mental robot with crutches, you know, on Christianity. You know, there were other people that were also like that 700 Club stuff that was really very predominant. But what the audience needs to know is that religion does really destroy, and I mean, we can see it, you know, in the 21st century. It is coming and thriving more and more. It is continuing to show its true evil forces, not the atheist movement, not the feminine movement, not the homosexual rights. And, you know, what people need to remember, too, is the genesis of Christianity. And it doesn't really take a scholar, even though most atheists I know are more intellectual, the more peaceful people, the more honest people that I have met ever. And believe me, I've done lots of research. That's how I was able to meet Ms. O'Hare in the early 80s. And I know there's people out there that have known her even longer. But what she really had to say was so unique in her time. And as you know, we continue to have to defend ourselves, and there's still all this name calling. If you don't wear a cross around your neck, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, you know, like your other callers were saying, you're satanic or you're evil or something. When that is just so absurd, and it's so sad to continue to see this kind of mentality.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
You know, but they get away with it because they have their big fancy buildings where they meet once a week and can say whatever they want.
Right.
And we've had this pervasive attitude in our culture that it's somehow beyond the pale to speak up and say, you know, what you people are telling each other in that big fancy building where you meet every week, some of that's pretty darn frickin' evil. And you oughtn't be telling one another that because you're lying about others.
Right, and it's all, you know, oppression. It's what it is. It's serious oppression, and it is so destructive of the mind. It's destructive in every sense that you think of. Like I said, doesn't take a scholar. But what was the other thing I was going to say? And then, you know, in view of the Robertson horrible attitude, you know, practice something that shouldn't even be practiced. I mean, I don't even want to go there because I know I'm going to get some bad calls over what I have to say. Maybe you will too. But for Robertson to be, he can come in and out of the White House like he's a decent man. He's not a decent man. You know, he's always been an opportunist. That goes right along with Christianity. And he can come in and go, in and out, and for some of us that have children and relatives that are serving in Iraq, some that are now dead too, we can't have a discussion with George Bush, but he can be in there and be hocus pocus with some of the people that come in.
You know, one thing I think is kind of funny is that a lot of what you hear among people who want to be bigoted against Muslims is if Muslims aren't all evil, then why don't the sane Muslims? I think we've lost her.
Okay.
Why don't the regular Muslims go after the fundamentalist against the crazy fundamentalist faction? And it's instructive to see what kind of reaction we've seen to the Pat Robertson thing, because they've either sort of disowned him and said, no, well, he's not really one of us, or they've not talked about him, which kind of goes to show, you know, I wouldn't really expect the normal Muslims to go after the fundamentalist Muslims any more than a lot of non-Muslims do, because they don't feel responsible for him, just as some of the Christians don't feel responsible for Pat Robertson.
I'm not surprised that they don't, but that is what I think, you know, say liberal Christians really need to come out strong against statements like Pat Robertson's, you know. I mean, and they don't want to, and I think there's a reason. My suspicion is that if you live in a glass house, you don't throw stones. I'm not suggesting that liberal Christians say things as reprehensible as Pat Robertson said, but what they probably don't want to get into is a, you know, spiraling cycle of recrimination back and forth between various denominations, to the point where, you know, the core question of, do any of us have any really good reason for believing any of this religion stuff in the first place, comes up. And I don't think they want to go there. I don't think they want to question one another, because they don't want to be questioned. They, you know, the religion thrives by people not asking hard questions about it.
Definitely. Okay, next we're going on to Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hi,
good.
Steve.
I love the show. I agree with probably about 80% of what you say overall on the show.
Okay.
That's pretty good. What's that, a B?
Different.
B minus.
B minus.
I call myself a selfish agnostic, but I wanted to respond to the lady that just called. I'm not sure if you're talking about the recent Pat Robertson statements or his 9/11 statement.
I think she was talking about his entire career.
Okay, he obviously is not a mainstream guy. Maybe you consider him a mainstream Christian. I don't know if he is or not. I would look at it.
Well, it's not so much that he's mainstream in the sense that he speaks for the majority of Christians, but he does speak for that faction of Christians which seems to have the most direct influence over the current government that is into that.
And he gets a lot of press, which you know is, I think, the bigger issue.
That, but
he gets a lot of attention, and
because he makes a fool of himself, and the press is, you know, very willing to show that. But that's not really why I called. One thing I would actually like to say is that there were members of the Clinton administration who were calling for the assassination of Saddam Hussein, and I don't recall anybody going nuts over that. But a private member of the country, Pat Robertson, who has no direct affiliation with the Bush administration, we can argue about how much influence he has, but he's a private individual, and he's calling for the assassination of a communist who we can sit here and argue all day, but he's no great guy. So I don't know why we have to focus so much attention on what a crazy old man says who doesn't really represent anything that the majority of voting...
I just disagreed with you that he doesn't represent anything. I think he represents a very powerful group of crazy people.
Oh, I think I understand where you're coming from, caller. Is you think that is actually a valid option to consider, and you don't want that option to get a bad taste associated with it just because Pat Robertson said it first, right?
I don't necessarily agree that it's a viable option.
Now, I'm not talking about viable, but, you know, in the just sitting around shooting the breeze about things we might do. Well, I agree with you. I actually agree with you that stuff like that, there are going to be cases where stuff like that might be the only option, right?
Of course, you could go down the Hitler route. Should we assassinate Hitler if we had the chance, etc., etc.?
Let's not forget that the president of Venezuela wasn't exactly Hitler.
Let's just stick with this one. My point is, I actually agree that everything should be discussable, right? I really do. I don't, from what little I know about the situation, right, from what I've heard, and I'm not claiming to be any kind of expert, right, I don't think that we're in a situation with Hugo Chavez where assassination is something we need to really seriously consider. But for just kicking around ideas, sure, I think everything ought to be discussable. The issue with Pat Robertson is He doesn't, right? Or at least he claims, when he talks about the Ten Commandments, he claims that there's this absolute set of rules that tell you what you can do and what you can't do. My whole thing about Pat Robertson today was not criticizing the idea of assassinating Hugo Chavez, right? My thing was, here's this religious leader who claims to represent an absolute and inflexible standard of morality, who, in fact, when you look at what he does, or what he says, and his justification for saying that in the first place, and then his excuses for why it wasn't that bad for him to say it, he clearly doesn't believe in an inflexible standard of right and wrong.
Yeah, I'd also like to add...
ironic, and doesn't it show the hypocrisy of basically what he says and what he stands for? But I just want to say that I think that the whole argument politically that religious people have a stranglehold on the right or have a stranglehold on politics, I think that is overstating it. Because if you talk to people like me, who I'm 25 years old, and if you talk to people who are, under 30 years old who are on the right, most of them are not Bible-banging Christians. That's not why they're on the right. That's not why they vote the way they do. So, I agree with you on most of what you say, but I think you inflate what you say about Pat Robertson and their influence on politics directly. Maybe a little bit, but it's just a small percentage of the right.
There's a website. Oh gosh, do we have a link to the Infidels Newswire?
I don't think so. But infidels.org, and then the Newswire link is on the left.
There's a website where news stories of interest to atheists, many of which have to do with the machinations of the religious right, okay? With things like the Dominionist movement, which is a religious political movement that had a huge convention earlier this year with thousands and thousands of people attending it, where they plan on taking over control of American government and changing it into a Christian theocracy, right? That exists. It's happening. We can argue back and forth about how far they've gotten, right? Or how likely it is that they will ever achieve their goal. But it is going on, and you might want to educate yourself about that.
Of course, I would disagree with that, but according to the Constitution, if somebody or a movement wanted to make a state or have a state religion for a particular state in the United States, that would be constitutional, according to the Constitution.
No, not according to one of the later amendments that said that that the states can't impose things that the federal government can't impose. That was the whole slavery thing.
I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if you, but there were
okay,
many.
We're running out of time on the show, and we're going to have to move on to a few more callers. But thanks very much for calling.
Thank you.
Bye. We're going to go on next to Carol. We've got not yet. We've got about 7 minutes left on the show. Just reminding everybody one more time that 45 minutes after the show, at 6:45 today, we will be at Shanghai River for the last time in a while, and that's near the Alamo Draft House on 2700 West Anderson Lane. So you're welcome to come and hang out with us after the show.
But only if the show is live and we're not just recordings.
Right. And so now, Carol, your turn.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm glad you guys are on the air.
We are too.
My topic is increasingly aggressive missionaries and their tactics, and the guys that knock on your door and try and play tricks to get you to open it. I was approached about 4 months ago, and I heard loud raps on everybody's door in our apartment complex. I peeked out the door, and there's these two figures standing there wearing cowboy hats, and I'm thinking, oh my God, maybe there's a fire. These guys look like policemen. So I opened the door, and they started talking about their religion and how I was going to hell. And I've had missionaries come to my door before, but never this aggressively. I mean, they told me I was going to hell. I was going to burn in a fiery
right.
Well,
it really depends on how rude you're willing to be, which is kind of the same thing I'd say to someone who is wondering how to deal with obnoxious telemarketers on the telephone. Because my response to a telemarketer is, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk to you, bye. And that feels bad, but you're not obligated to listen to them. There are a variety of approaches you might take, like, hi, have you heard about Jesus? No, what do you want to know? Or, I'm an atheist, buzz off.
Okay.
But, you could talk to them.
That's what I do. I got this call from a Jehovah's Witness. A call, mind you, not at the door. Right. And I talk to him, but that's my hobby, right? I find it amusing. And
we're the guys who voluntarily put ourselves on camera.
It's your home. They don't have any rights or authority over you. You can tell them to buzz off.
Okay. I just thought that their tactics were increasingly sneaky.
I tell myself that is a sign of desperation. Because if you look at the statistics, right, even with all the stuff that's going on in our nation right now, in a 10-year span from the 90s to the early 2000s, the percentage of people that were religious dropped by some like 10%, right? Wow. They are desperate. They are trying to grab as much power as they can because they feel it's slipping away. That's how I see it.
Okay.
And I just have fun with them.
Because I've never heard that opinion. And that's pretty good. I'm just going to shut the door on them next time because they're just rude.
Yeah, they're being rude. Why should you be polite?
Yeah, calling them mean names and telling me where I'm going to go and stuff like that. Anyway, just wanted to, again, thank you guys.
Thanks for watching.
Right. Thanks.
Okay.
And good luck.
I also think that if somebody came and knocked on your door, not in a religious context, and you opened the door and they just started saying, you know what, you deserve to be tortured forever.
Yeah.
They're asking to be punched out by somebody.
We're not recommending that.
No. Because that would be assault, and that probably wouldn't be...
Probably not to that.
Right. I just saw line 3 flash, so I'm not actually sure that Steve is still on the line. Could somebody message me about that? So we've got 2.5 minutes on the show, so if we get one more call, then it will be a short one. So I'll just say the things that I'd normally say at the end of the show. We are going to be on next week, Sunday at 4:30, and the guest is going to be... Is it Matt?
Yes, you mean the co-host?
I mean, the co-host is going to be Matt, who called this week.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, Karen was last week.
If you really
Matt
need to know, we have a calendar, don't we, on the website?
That's right. We have a very well-done website, www.atheist-community.org.
But it doesn't really matter. We're all, good co-hosts in our own way.
Of course. And... if you did not manage to get on the show today, then the address at the bottom of the screen, tv@atheist-community.org, will automatically forward mail to me, all 4 co-hosts and the producers and a bunch of other people, and there will definitely be someone who answers you. I haven't seen any emails go unanswered recently. We will be at Shanghai River at 6:45 today. August 28th. And next week we will be going to Fresh Choice, and I keep getting a message waved in my face, but I don't know how to relate it back to what we've been talking about lately, so sorry. I can't help you with that. One more time, going to announce that George Carlin will be live, especially since it looks like we're out of callers now. George Carlin will be live Saturday, September 24th, and a group of atheists will be going to see him together with dinner beforehand. So check the website or watch this show for repeated announcements about that as the date approaches.
I like George Carlin, and I pity the evangelist that walks up and knocks on his door.
Yeah, I can just imagine what kind of thing he would do. Maybe he would sick Joe Pesci on him to break his kneecaps.
Because he worships Joe Pesci, according to one of his albums.
Yes. No, he worships the sun, but he prays to Joe Pesci.
Right, because Joe Pesci gets things done.
Here we are.
All right, we're going to end our show with us reminiscing about a George Carlin album we've heard.
George Carlin is cool.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.